So welcome back, everybody, for another member spotlight. Joining me today is the virtual CFO, and her name is Sarah Reimann. Sarah, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Bram.
It's great to see you. You and I have known each other for many years. We've bumped into each other at a variety of networking events all over town, and now we're really, we're working a lot more closely together, which is great. So, first of all, tell us a little bit more about you personally, and then I'd like to bring it back to the reason why this is worth for members to actually learn about. Because if you're a business owner, you will find that managing cash is king, and doing the right strategic investments is king. And all of that sort of stuff we'll get to in a moment. But first of all, over to you, Sarah. Who are you personally speaking?
Thank you, Bram. Thank you. Well, I'm a mother. I've got two adult daughters who are 22 and 24, and I'm a wife as well. I've got husband Peter, been married since 2015, and I'm also a runner. I do a fair bit of running and walking, and I like to keep fit and do yoga. I'm a bit of a running junkie, if you might call it. I go to groups probably 3 times a week, and I like doing part run. Just passionate about business and business ownership and financial freedom, because I've seen lots of businesses go wrong in that area. My mum and dad actually taught me the opposite of what it was to be good at finances and good at business. So I decided that I'd break that generational type thing and find out what it really meant to be financially free and invest in property and business. And that's what I enjoy.
That's great. And I like that little wrap up. And like you, I'm a runner, an avid runner as well. And I like meditation and yoga and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I really like what you just said there about that thing where we get taught as kids by our own parents and other, people and adults that are in a capacity to so-called show us the way. Sometimes great ideas, great habits, but sometimes not so great habits. So tell us a little bit more. What were some of those financial habits that you picked up initially that you then decided to change for the better?
Yeah, so mum and dad had a small business for about 30 years. Dad was a mechanic. And when I was a kid, I saw a lot of debt. I saw them, they borrowed to get into the business, which, isn't always a bad thing. And they never had a house. They rented a house for probably the best part of 15 years when I was a kid. They finally bought one, I think, when they were in their 50s, late 50s. They always had car loans, credit cards. I never really heard about saving or investing from them. And my dad is 85 now. And in that era, superannuation probably wasn't a thing. Back then, it didn't come in until the 1990s. So he was very skeptical on superannuation. And then they got to sort of their 60s, they retired, and unfortunately, they closed their shop doors. Their business wasn't worth anything. They hadn't paid off their home loans, so they had no assets and they had no super, and virtually retired on a support, like an age pension from the government. And I and that was sort of when I was in my 20s, and my sister and I just almost made a pact, really. And it's not that I'm throwing my parents under the bus, but that we just didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be ending up in 30, 40 years' time with no money and no asset and having to just struggle and strive for money. So someone actually gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was in my 30s. I read it. This is after I'd done my accounting degree, by the way, because an accounting degree definitely does not teach you how to become financially free or wealthy. It just teaches you numbers. And when I read that was probably about 15 years ago, I just thought, why did no one tell me about this? Is this a secret? Like, is it really? And it's not rocket science. If anyone hasn't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's basically investing in assets to create wealth. It's that simple. And so I just thought, all right, well, I'll just do that. And over the last 15 years, I just bought some houses and units and became financially free in my 40s and invested in a business as well, an accounting firm. So yeah, the bad habits were that I just didn't hear about investing or saving, and I heard all the wrong things about debt.
Hey, and how good it is that you actually became aware of that, you and your sister, and then decided to make a pact and change it around in your advantage, which is great. Obviously now, yes, you said, yes, you build an accounting practice, sold it. You've invested in property. Great.
Yep.
You've got the assets there that are accumulating in value, pay your rent, and basically provide you an income, which is great. Now, tell us a little bit more. Like, I love you know, how you came with that sort of really sense of awareness. And you're right, like money skills aren't taught very well in school, university, or typically by parents unless they're really savvy with money. And so nowadays, suddenly people are adults, they come with whatever education they've had. They, like us, started a business, and now they find themselves here and there firefighting, having, you know, high highs and low lows in the cash flow, sometimes more bills than money available, and so on and so forth. So tell us a little bit more, like, what are the pitfalls that you see that business owners make that basically say, hang on, this is feedback, this is a red flag, this is something you got to get on top of, and this is probably where you or somebody like you with a CFO type mindset can look at the numbers together with him and get him back on track. So what are the things that you see typically happening?
Yeah, it's really a lack of knowledge around finance. So let's call it financial literacy. Most business owners take any industry, get into that business because they're passionate about it, whether it's a trade or they're in HR or whatever it might be. They're really good at what they do. They're good at dealing with clients. They're good at all the PR work. But when it comes to finance, it's something that you don't need to know to get into business. You can just go register an ABN. If I had my way, I'd be petitioning the government to not let anyone get an ABN without doing some sort of financial literacy training, or you know, getting it mandatory in schools. So if we could get those two things mandatory, I think we'd, especially now where everyone's going, hey, cost of living's high, I can't afford this, I can't. If we don't have that financial literacy piece, I don't understand how money work, or we can make money work for us, then we're going to get into trouble. And it's things around debtors, not chasing up debtors, not invoicing, doing jobs and spending the time and resource and even materials on jobs and not billing. It's not saving for taxes. That is a really big one. Stop paying taxes or super when you get into trouble. And if I can give you anyone here advice, please don't stop paying the ATO. They have the biggest powers to take your business down. I mean, you wouldn't stop paying your landlord or your staff because you're going to get kicked out or they won't come back. So don't stop paying. So it's the reality of not planning for these things, or not saving or looking to the future is one of the biggest pitfalls that business owners face. They just sort of live on this kind of week to week type thing. Hey, I've got the sales coming in. But again, sales, I always say revenue is a vanity metric because it doesn't tell us exactly what's going on. Profit is sanity, revenue is vanity, you know, those sort of things.
Yeah.
So there's just a few things that really is quite common for many of the SME type businesses that I work with. And it's service or product, same sort of thing.
Yeah. And that's an interesting focus point that you dare raise. Now, from previous live streams we've done elsewhere, we've spoken also about, like, you know, people having sometimes the question and say like, hey, CFO, well, what does that mean to me as a business owner? And then you make like a distinction between, you know, what an accountant does, what a bookkeeper does, and where the CFO comes in. So tell us a little bit more the difference between those three.
Yeah. So typically people come to me because they may have gone to their bookkeeper or gone to their accountant looking for this sort of directional type advice on financial planning for their business, and they haven't got it. And that's not to say that they're wrong. Every business needs a good bookkeeper. They need someone to do the data entry, get it right, put the dollars in the right holes and in the right places, and they need a tax accountant for, you know, structures and companies and trusts and all the tax planning stuff. You need those two people, good ones in your business. But where they fall short is the advice around how they plan for the future. So I had one client come to me, she's a service business, and said, you know, my accountant did all this cash flow forecasting and budgeting and sent me all these spreadsheets, but she says, I don't know what to do with it. I'm not a finance person. And that's because she's lacking the advice piece behind it. She's lacking someone like a CFO like myself to go in and go, okay, this is what these numbers mean. This is what this spreadsheet is actually telling you to do. So there's always a story, I think, behind numbers. If you look at a profit and loss, and especially a balance sheet, which many people don't understand, there's a story behind that. And you can tell from that how healthy or how unhealthy a business is just by looking at if you've got the right person to give you the right advice on those things. Yeah.
Right. And let's be honest, typically the way that an accountant looks at the numbers is in the rear view mirror. They look at the
Yeah.
past and they basically then derive reports and tax files and all of that sort of stuff that they then submit based on past performance. But
Mhm.
the past is not always the best predictor of what the future will look like. And so this is where I like really that you come in, where you're more proactive and actually looking ahead of time, using, yes, some of the data from the past, but
Mhm.
then look like how you can make smart decisions in the future. Can you walk us through that a little bit more, please?
Yeah, and I think the financial piece and the strategy piece go together. So people might understand what a business plan is. You know, it's a 20-page document that a lot of people just write up because they want to get a loan or something for some reason, or they start out, do a little course, and they say, "Oh, you've got to do a business plan." But when we talk about strategic planning, that just goes that extra level. So it takes into account all of the goals, all of the plans of the business, you know, the vision and the mission and where that business owner wants to take the business and what they're all about. And it puts in there the financial plan as well. I've actually seen business plans that have no financial element to them, which to me, honestly, I don't think that's a proper business plan, because the question is, how are you going to pay for it? You've got all these plans, how are you going to pay for it?
Everything is free.
Yeah, it's fairly self-explanatory. But so taking that holistic view, and yeah, like you said, Bram, is the accountant plays an important role where they're lodging for you, virtually keeping you out of the ATO jail, so to speak, because you have to lodge those things. But forecasting is a different thing, because then you've got some sort of gauge on what's going to happen tomorrow and next week and next month and next year. And if you don't have that, a lot of businesses would be up at night worrying about what tomorrow is going to bring. But if you've got that strategic forward-looking advice, then some of that worry is going to be alleviated, because you've got a plan for where you're going and what you're doing financially, strategically, goals, all of that stuff. It all goes together.
Yeah, I love that. And I personally love planning and forecasting. That's a really key word that I heard you say. So the strategy of how you're going to go about achieving your goals in your business and using the financials for it. If I were to ask you bluntly, like for a business owner that now has trouble with, say, ATO payments or paying out super or paying out staff on time, or like just, for example, chasing debtors or not, or having really way long times between when they invoice a debtor and when they actually get paid by them. If they have any of those challenges there, or even play bank for clients, as I call it, by purchasing materials up front and then being out of pocket for such a long time and carrying all that. Like, I know that a lot of people on this will be able to resonate with that message. What would be some best practices if you say 3 tips, 4 tips, 5 tips that you believe business owners can really benefit from to be able to forecast better, plan better, and strategize?
I think just on that point where you said about materials, I mean, I'll give you an example. I've got a tradie that's going to come and install a new pergola for us in April. He sent me a bill, he sent me a quote, but then he sent a bill for the deposit, which was basically the materials. Now that's smart, because he's going to go order them. He's asking me for the deposit to cover the materials, and I can quantify that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But a lot of people, again, you know, they're paying out for the product, they're paying out for the materials, and they're not billing someone. So getting on top of that's good. And it's the same in, let's say it's a legal or an accounting firm or a HR firm, where all the staff are spending time on client work, and then before they know it, there's like 10, 20, 30 grand of time dollars racked up, and they haven't billed anyone. And the solution to that is let's get our service-based business billing on value rather than time. So even an accounting firm, for instance, they can bill on value. They've got recurring revenue. They've got clients that keep coming back year after year. They can have a set fee. Let's bill them 10 grand a year. Let's bill 20 grand a year, and then they just pay monthly. And then you don't have to worry about those sort of hourly rate type stuff, because you're actually billing on value. I'm going to do this for you. It's not going to take this much time, but this is the actual outcome that you're going to get. And I think that's a much better value proposition for service business rather than this hourly rate. Even for lawyers too, you can still have that model. Accountants can even set up as a subscription model. just like you pay for Netflix or something. It's like a subscription. It's just a monthly fee. And evening out cash flow too is to do with, again, like putting money aside, so not having all of your money in one business bank account. And this is an unfortunate advice that some tax accountants have given my clients, is I just have one account because it's too hard to track 2 or 3. Too hard for who? Like, it's not too, it might be too hard for them to reconcile or something, but if they know what they're doing, it's not that hard. But so then you split your money into those 3, let's call them buckets of different bank accounts. So then you're not getting a BAS bill or a surprise tax bill or a surprise something else. You've actually got that money there.
So one bucket, sorry to stop you there, but one bucket then would be tax. What would be the other ones?
You could actually put some for bills. So people that might have big electricity bills or stuff like that too, or even materials. You know, if you're a product business, you could save up for, you know, buying things in bulk because some suppliers might give discounts. But definitely having 2, if not 3. Beyond that, it might get a little messy. But I'm an advocate for having 3. So tax, maybe even superannuation, and GST, and having those extra, not having it, because again, if you're spending that money, it's not yours, it's the tax department. So
great. And I'm sure that whoever is watching who feels caught out has already been down that track, which means now this should be alarm bells to you, feedback to you that there's different ways of going about it, and that if you don't know how to go about it, just find out the right advice. People that been on that path before, that know what to do, and that can potentially guide you and help you out. So look, it's probably about time now, but should people want to talk to you, Sarah, and want to explore how you potentially might help them, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on my website, is www.sarahreimann.com.au, and that's REIMANN. I'm on LinkedIn and on Facebook. If you're in Adelaide, I occasionally run some networking events on a Friday lunchtime, and those are on my website as well. And you can book a call on my website too. It's all there.
Beautiful. We'll make sure that we actually populate those website links below this video for easy reference, so they can easily get in touch with Sarah. And I highly endorse her. I like what she's about. She's a good person too, that helps. And she's very passionate about helping people to really become financially free by using money wisely and putting the right plans and structures and systems and procedures. And so with that being said, Sarah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Bram. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining in. And members, we see you again next time for another Member Spotlight. Bye for now.
Bye.